celebrating 100 years of St. Martin's. Did you know about how this church was built? The first Mass on our property, establishing the Church of St. Martin's, was held on December 12, 1920, but our current church wasn't built until 1957. This church was built to accommodate an expanding post-World War II population that had long outgrown the original cobbled-together church from 1920. In fact, the parish had been worshiping in the auditorium of the school since 1942. In the early 1950s, the pastor, Father Paul Meyer, began a fundraising campaign to build a new church. In addition to soliciting funds from parishioners, the church held a variety of fundraisers in the community, including enormous turkey dinners. Ground for the new church was broken in December 1956. At the ceremony, Mrs. Teresa Selby turned over the first shovel of earth. As a young woman back in 1914, Mrs. Selby had been part of the group of church ladies who had helped to buy this property. The church was built by a Bethesda construction company, Thomas W. Yoder. The cost for the entire project, $257,000. It was completed in less than a year while the busy life of the parish went on around it. The church is built of brick with limestone trim and seats 500 people. The altar and its relics were dedicated on November 11, 1957. The church itself was dedicated by Archbishop Patrick O'Boyle on the following Sunday, November 17, 1957. He also laid the cornerstone. 10 years later, Father Meyer proudly reported in his 1967 financial report to the parish that the debt we had incurred to build our church was entirely paid off. Since 1957, the exterior of the church is mostly unchanged, but the church interior has undergone several renovations. Sometime after Vatican II, a second altar was added, facing the people. The communion rails were removed, and the floor was extended into the nave of the church to accommodate the altar. For those years, the choir stood behind the altar. In the mid-1990s, the altar was moved back up into the sanctuary, and there was a simple curved dais in front of the steps. In 2018, that curve was replaced, and rails were put back in front of the statuary niches. So for our centennial celebrations, the church will closely match its original look from 1957, when it was built by Father Meyer to give God his own house in our community.